Cow. It wasn't that cute, but others were like rubber and it was really creepy. And like years later, we found it in the closet and it melted. I know, it was terrifying.
Somehow I don't think that outfit
Stop.
works. I'm a vegetarian.
Oh, nice. All right,
I like it.
are we all ready? All
Are those really your pajamas?
right, guys, so I'm a cow.
I love it.
Cows are cute, cows are delicious, but cows are also destroying our planet. So how are they destroying our planet? Essentially, mass production of livestock causes more greenhouse gases than every single form of transportation combined. So the greenhouse gases caused by trains, cars, planes, motorcycles, everything, that is less of a contributor to climate change than factory farming is and livestock farming in general. So when it comes to destruction of our ecosystems and that kind of stuff, another big issue with that is that it pollutes our water, and it also uses it's a big waste of water in the sense that it uses 70% of all of the water in the United States goes to farming in some way, shape, or form, either farming to grow grains that are specifically made for animal consumption or to water the cows and that kind of stuff. So then when it comes to being vegan or vegetarian, the environmental impact of that, the positive impact of like cutting meat or dairy or that kind of stuff out of your diet, that ends up being it saves more CO2 emissions than driving a Prius. How much more? 50% more CO2 emissions than switching and driving a Prius. So then the need is sustainability. So what we're doing right now is we take a huge amount of land and then we grow a bunch of crops on it that are not grown for human consumption. They're grown to feed to an animal, which is actually, we grow, I know exactly how much, but, it's over 50% of the crops grown in the United States are grown specifically for animal consumption rather than for human consumption. So we use these huge areas of land, we grow food for the animals, then we take all that food, and if anybody knows biology, food, 10% of the energy from the food goes into the consumer. So 10% of the energy from the grains or the crops going into the cow, then the cow takes all that in, and then you eat the cow, and then that gives you 10% of the original substance that you started with. And so then you put all of this water, energy, fertilizer, all that kind of stuff, every resource that it took to create that, you're putting all of that, and then you're only getting 10% into the cow, then you're only getting 10% from the cow into you. So by numbers, it's greatly inefficient related to consuming plants, instead a direct 10% of the plant into you instead of getting 10% of the plant into the cow and then 10% of the cow into you. And then when it comes to, in numbers wise, it takes to grow 1 pound of soy protein versus 1 pound of meat, if we're going directly by numbers, it takes 12 times the land to grow 1 pound of meat, which is specifically beef. It takes 12 times the land, 13 times the amount of fossil fuels to do that, and also 15 times the amount of water. So it's greatly inefficient. It's a really resource intensive process to raise a whole animal to eat. And overall, I'm not nearly as concerned about the animal rights aspect of it than I am as the sustainability aspect of vegetarianism, which is, people are often taken aback by that, but really it's just looking at the sustainability of it. You could feed more people, that kind of stuff. So as a solution, just either A, completely stop eating meat, which is, I understand that that's really hard for a lot of people. So then there's also reduce your meat intake. So for that kind of thing, you could cut it down to 1 day a week you don't eat meat, which would be like, meatless Mondays, or what Catholics do. You probably
Friday.
do that, Callahan.
Friday,
Hey.
there you go.
But 1 day a week you don't eat meat. So if you did that, that would mean that would reduce the like if every single person did that, the national intake of meat would be 1/7 lower, which would mean for every 7 people going 1 day without meat, that's the equivalent to 1 extra vegetarian, which is really cool. So, which is a more like tangible way to actually get to reducing the impact of factory farming and livestock farming on the world. So you could also switch to eating only fish. You could switch to no beef, which is, well, that sounds kind of like, it's not that big of a deal. But beef is actually the most intensive, the most resource intensive, and also like greenhouse gas producing animal livestock to raise. So even by cutting out beef, that would be a really awesome thing to do for your planet. So then also, when it comes to the effects of not eating meat anymore or eating a whole lot less meat, when you're a vegetarian, it cuts down your chance of getting heart disease by 32%, which is, heart disease is the biggest killer in the United States. So you're 32% less likely to get killed by the #1 killer of the United States, which is really cool. It also has lower rates of obesity, which kind of goes hand in hand with the heart disease issue, but the heart disease and obesity, that comes from the fact that cholesterol types, the bad cholesterols, that mostly comes from animal products such as fatty meats, or it also comes from the just kind of oily parts of meat. So when you're not taking in any of that, the specifically bad types of cholesterol, if you're only eating plant matter, you can't get any of that. So your arteries stay clean as a whistle. And then it also, overall, it creates healthier people. Often people say, well, how do you get protein? Protein's really easy when you're a vegetarian. Actually, what we're about to eat, it has 25 grams of protein per veggie dog, which is veggie dogs, man. But so for the meat containing alternative to that is 8 grams of protein compared to 25 of the exact same type of food. So overall, it's a far better alternative to actually go with the non-meat alternatives, where instead of taking all the plant matter, putting it into one animal, then killing that animal, then taking the energy out of that animal, which is like the smallest amount of what you started with, you're going all the energy into the grain, then you mix grain, proteins, all that kind of stuff, and then you get something that tastes freaking awesome. And as Dr. T. Colin Campbell of Cornell University says, quite simply, the more you substitute plant foods for animal foods, the healthier you're likely to be. He's got it right. So then, if anybody wants to look at this infographic that I have, it gives you some extra numbers and cool facts about going vegetarian or eating less meat overall. Additionally, when it comes to the water issue, the use of animals on the land, they end up polluting the water really badly because of, cows produce methane, which is a far stronger greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, which is, what cars produce, what we exhale, all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot stronger and it's a lot more rapidly destructive than CO2. And when it gets into our water, it puts a lot more stress on our water treatment plants. And so because they have to take all of that out of there, and when the cows, we kind of pump these cows full of antibiotics and medications, and then when they urinate, it ends up in our water. And so if you test tap water in Colombia, it does contain antibiotics from cows, which really sucks, but that's kind of how it goes when we have 1.4 billion cows on the planet, which is a lot more than this planet is capable of sustaining. And when you look at it, 1.4 billion cows didn't just show up. They didn't just naturally breed until there's 1.4 billion of them. We artificially inseminated them until we just kept making them and making them, because as population of our planet rises, the demand for meat is also rising. And so like growing animals for consumption, that is sustainable with a very small population. If there's a small population, it becomes, fairly tangible. You have enough grain to do that, but we're facing world hunger, and using these inefficient methods of nutrition intake. So where it goes, you put all this energy, you put all your water and all your resources into growing the plants, and then you feed all of those plants into growing the cow, and then you put a bunch of resources into the cow, and then you don't get as much out of the cow as you put into the plants or the cow. That's a really poor sequence of events to get maximum amount of nutrient out of what we're having. So when it comes to helping out the planet, helping out people in general, it's the more often that you can substitute a vegetarian alternative or something meatless, the better. So as I say that, we have lots of really good foods to sample, and we have Applewood smoked sausage. We have
What? Pepperoni?
Applewood smoked sausage.
Sausage, but what's in the sausage?
I'll read it to you.
It's not sausage.
And that's true, it's better than sausage, friend. So,
But you have hummus.
okay, so in the Applewood smoked sausage,
Applewood.
we have water, wheat, safflower oil, dried apples, Yukon Gold potatoes, yeast extract, onion powder, barley malt, garlic, natural hickory smoke flavor with Toria yeast, spices, sea salt, and rubbed sage. It's really excellent. It tastes a lot like very, very, very
We got a sample.
meaty. Yeah, we have lots of samples. Then we also have frankfurters, which are essentially hot dogs. And in that, it's going to be essentially about the same thing, just with fewer apples, And then we also have Italian sausage, which has, I really encourage you to try it. It's really delicious. It's really good. People are often really surprised. They think that it's going to taste like, an actual mixture of vegetables, but it so does not. It just tastes like a
It's pretty easy
meaty,
to
yummy thing. And also, in comparison to the meat alternatives to these things, oh, sorry. I'm messing up the table. When it comes to the meat alternatives, it has a way greater amount of protein in this than in any sausage, bratwurst, hot dog that you could find made out of actual animals. And also cholesterol. Actually, wait, hold on. It might have a little bit of, oh, okay. No cholesterol here.
1 gram of fat.
No cholesterol here.
No fat.
There's no cholesterol, sorry. There's no cholesterol because you can't get cholesterol, that type of cholesterol from plants. But additionally, it does have a little bit of fat because it's made with oils, and oils are fats, but that also means that it's a good fat rather than a bad fat for your body. And also, yeah, they all have a little bit of fat, and so if you're going for the apple smoked, that has 25 grams of protein, the frankfurters have 21 grams of protein, and the Italian sausage has 30.
Sorry, per how much?
Oh, that's for one sausage.
One sausage has-
Yeah, for one sausage, 30 grams of protein,
That's
man.
a lot.
Yeah, I know. It's
Which is a lot.
poppin'. It's so much better for you. It's not even meat though. It's not meat, and it's better for you in every type of way. And also, they make sure that they're incorporating all of the necessary nutrients for your body.
Did all this work for us? Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you.
Good presentation.